Well, good Saturday morning, everybody. I am sports mental health empowerment coach, Dr. Lauren Pitts. This is my amazing co-host, Ronnie Ransome, and this is House Talk Pregame. Happy Saturday, everybody.
Happy Saturday, everybody. So glad to be back. Look, guys, we got a lot of student athletes in college and professional athletes who have struggled at some point in their life with some type of mental health challenges, who are still currently struggling with mental health challenges. Understanding that mental health or mental illnesses is a complex problem for physical, spiritual, and environmental and relational health needs. So it's equally important that having good mental health can lead to having a great athletic career as well.
That's right, Ronnie. And here's the thing. This is why it's so important for parents, family members, coaches, and even teammates to understand both the mental health risks and benefits to ensure athletes have the greatest opportunity for success and enjoy participating in sports.
And that's what it's all here about at Pregame: educating, empowering, supporting, and positively influencing the holistic performance of today's student and professional athletes, their family members, and those interest invested in their athletic, professional, and personal journeys.
Yeah. You know, if if you're struggling to understand mental illness and we see this happen, we know that mental illness is stigmatized in Black and Brown communities. But you find yourself having compassion for those affected by it, then you know what? You're in the right place because each week on Pregame, we share powerful, albeit raw. And let me just tell y'all, Dr. Pitts in rare form. Look good, put the disclaimer out there, Ronnie. I'm in rare form today. It's been a week. Oh my gosh, it's been a week. So it's raw. It gets real raw. Um, Life, sports, and mental health information that's needed to help you to make well informed athletic and life transforming decisions.
So, look, guys, if you all want to be part of the conversation, part of the debates that we have, part of the information gathering and sharing that we do, please, 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 please reach out to us so we can send you our Zoom link so you can be a part of our show, and also check us out on all our social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, you name it. The only one we ain't on is MySpace. So, well, we're gonna get there.
There's still a MySpace, Ronnie.
There is still a MySpace. There is. I don't know
Wow.
anybody that uses it, but there's still a MySpace. And if people start using it again, we will share our information on there as well.
Indeed,
But look,
indeed.
guys, you can also catch us on the radio on HSRN. We're actually one of our pre-recorded shows is actually airing right now at 11 a.m. Eastern time, and we'll also be airing again at 10 o'clock on Saturdays. And you can also catch our reruns of the show at 6 p.m. on Sundays. All right. So look, guys, we have a great show lined up for you all today. So last week we kind of, talked about recap of the summer, recap of all the events going on. This week we're going to be focusing on adjustment disorders versus also, adjusting to campus life, but adjusting to being a student athlete for the first time at college and professional levels. So we're going to be talking about what are some things to look for, what are some things to expect. Those who get to college and they have culture shock, or they have cold feet about the entire experience. We're going to talk about all that today, on top of our mental health tip of the week, which is focusing on adjustment disorder versus PTSD. So before we get into that, I wanted to share with everybody, me and Dr. Pitts were having a very informative conversation before we hopped on. And so I think it's cool for us to share this real quick that, look, guys, understand this. Us as mental health professionals, we hear a multitude, I mean, a multitude of people's personal history, their stories, how they got to where they are. And like Dr. Pitt said, it's been a week. It has been a week. And for me personally, it's probably been one of the busiest weeks of my life. And, you know, when I work with clients, I like to notice themes and things like that, themes of, certain stories and stuff like that, that help me provide a adequate treatment plan for my clients. But I'd be lying to you if I didn't say that I feel like the overall theme for, not only us, but our listeners who are listening in this morning is this shrouded cloud of uncertainty, doubt, and just, negativity that's just shrouding over the entire, country and world. And that's draining. And it's often hard sometimes to think about positive things. And one of the things that me and Dr. Pitts always advocate for is self-care, self-care, self-care. And honestly, sometimes self-care sounds good, but oftentimes self-care for us can just be escaping.
Yeah.
Just sometimes just I always preach to people, we all wear multiple hats as individuals. We all wear multiple hats through Monday through Friday, and for Dr. Pitts, Monday through Saturday, we wear a therapist hat all day. And sometimes it's hard to take that hat off. And I was thinking about this, Dr. Pitts, and I want to share this with you because I see a lot of people who are starting to actually, seek out therapy, seek, help for, some of their traumas, their family history and things like that to gain understanding. And one of the questions that was floating in my mind was, well, what makes a therapist, so I guess eligible to speak on people's issues and things like that. And one of the ways I try to break down therapy for people is like, look, us as therapists, we're people too. We function in the same society that a lot of you all do. We function in the same set of rules, boundaries, expectations that you all do. And one of the core beliefs for me as a mental health therapist is that if you know better, you have to do better.
Ooh, say it.
But what does that really mean? What does really knowing better and doing better mean? And one of the main reasons people come to therapy is because they feel that therapists have this unbiased, objective view set of anything that's going on. And one of the questions I ask myself is, well, why is that only designated to therapists? Because it kind of it makes me feel like, well, we're separated from society. People come to us because we're separated from society, and we're kind of like, the overseers or the judges of society. And that's not true. Understanding that, as therapists, we're humans too. We're people too. We have emotions, we have feelings, we have thoughts, we have doubts, we have insecurities as well. That's what makes us human. However, because of the principle of if I know better, do better, and I really try to exude that in my everyday life, that doesn't make me better than or know more or knowledgeable more than you, because the information that we share as therapists is information that is life information. It's information for your life. So I wanted to share that this morning to let people know, hey, look, what we talk about as therapists is, it's cool, definitely go seek a professional for any of your mental health challenges, but understand this: we're not going to give you no magic pill or magic answer to your life challenges or your daily struggles. We're going to tell you the truth. And oftentimes, knowing better and doing better is the absolute truth that some people need to hear. And so, I wanted to share that because like I said, me and Dr. Pitts were talking before we got on, and we see a lot of people who know better, but they don't do better. And they don't do better because they hope that somebody can do better for them.
Right.
And unfortunately, America, that's not how this thing called life works. We are all individuals tied within a system that's tied within a system that's tied within a system. Each one of us have our own role. And getting to a place of awareness where you know your role is crucial and important. And some people's roles might be greater than other people's, and that's fine. But everybody's role is important in this game of life. Everything, the decisions that me and Dr. Pitts make have impacts on other people. The decisions that our president makes has impacts on an entire country. The decisions that other world leaders and other people make have an impact on the entire globe. One individual can impact an entire globe.
How about it?
So understanding that we're all in this together, we all are supposed to work together. And so I just wanted to share that this morning because it was heavy on my heart. And, I just want people to understand that, we're people too. All right. We're people too. We have our fallacies. We have our, I always tell people the day you stop learning is the day you die.
How about it?
Like,
that's true.
I've never been at this point. I'm the oldest I've ever been and the youngest I'll ever be.
That's right. That's real.
Yeah. I'm always learning, and I'm gonna always continue to learn, because when I turn 29 next February, I've never been 29 before. I don't know what 29 is like.
Yeah.
I don't know what 30 is gonna be like if I see 30. So
Yeah.
we're always learning, people, and don't make small things such a big deal.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, we can't take none of these material possessions with us.
How about it?
We just can't. And so, the memories we make with people, the interaction we have with people, and the loved ones, our friends and family, those are the things that we need to bring more awareness to, and get people to understand that we're all in this together. And as a collective unit, we can do great things together. So I guess that can kind of serve as my mental health tip of the week too, is, also, having awareness of your role. Be aware of your role in society, and be aware of your role in your own life, because your role matters.
Does it ever? So I'm going to go ahead and put the disclaimer out here that I'm about to go smooth in. I'm about to go on a rant, but I'm going to breathe intermittently because I want you to interject.
I got you.
Because I got a few things that I need to get off of my heart, but I think that they're going to be instrumental to the athletic world. They're going to be instrumental to family systems. They're just going to be instrumental to people as far as their own health and well-being. So I want to piggyback for a minute on what you said, and everything that I'm going to touch on is going to tie into my mental health tip of the week, because I'm going to give a few of them as I go on this rant. So Ronnie and I were talking, as he said, before we came on the air, and we were talking about, sitting in our ick, if you will. And what we mean clinically by our ick is those populations, if we will, that we have difficulty working with, because of the fact that we are human and we have our own stuff. And as clinicians, part of our self-care is being able to better understand what our triggers and stressors are in life, and being able to manage them effectively so that we can stay effective in how we help our clients. I love the fact that you mentioned the theme, Ronnie, and the theme that's come up for me this week in this work has been fear, insecurity, and personal boundaries. And the amazing part of that, right, is all three of those things tie into adjustment disorders, right? Mm-hmm. So when you look at fear and insecurity and personal boundaries, or the lack thereof, I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated because folks come in to treatment pointing the finger and casting blame. And as Ronnie said, we are responsible clinically to find out family history. We do what's called a genogram, and a genogram is a clinical family tree, if you will. So in order for us to have an understanding better of what's going on with our client or with the family with whom we work, we look at a minimum at 3 generations of that family system to look for those themes, if you will, that are emerging within the family system, whether it be, emotional, behavioral, relational, socioeconomic, whatever the case may be. All of these things are data to us, right? And we have to be able to process this information effectively so that we can be strategic in our efforts to put together an effective treatment plan when we're working with our clients. Mm-hmm. But one of the challenges that arise with this, Ronnie, and this is what is I'm like, I got to put this out here so that I can free some people, is that very much like, and I think I shared it last week, I don't remember if I did, so I'm going to touch on it again. Much like this concept of how baby elephants are trained in the country of India, the baby elephants are trained from imprints, and they have this big rope that's tied around their ankle and pounded into a stake in the ground. And of course, the elephant tries to get free. Eventually, the baby elephant gives up. But we know, as a full-grown adult elephant, I did touch on this last week, but it's relevant to what I'm saying. We as a full-grown elephant, we know that the elephant has the capacity to pull that rope and that stake out the ground. But because they've been conditioned for so long to be in bondage, they have lost sight of their power. They are no longer aware of their power. And one of the things that I do as a solution-focused therapist, Ronnie, is that I remind people of their power. Human beings forget, and some don't even know, that the human mind, I'm going to use the appropriate term. The human mind is very easily manipulated. I was going to say something else, but I don't want folk to be offended. The human mind is very easily manipulated. It will do whatever you tell it to do. It will think what you tell it to think. It will act the way you tell it to act. It will behave the way you tell it to behave. You just have to condition it to do so, just like you go for conditioning and training when you're preparing for your sport and practice. It's all about conditioning. Ronnie, folks are coming in to treatment, or here's the worst case scenario, they're not coming into treatment and they're going through life every minute of every day with these toxic thoughts, with this jacked up thought life that is grounded in limiting habits, limiting beliefs. And here's the thing, we know that trauma is real. We know that trauma has the ability to alter the way the brain functions and to have folk entrenched, but that doesn't mean that a person is relieved of their power. It doesn't mean that the restrictions and the constraints and the limitations and the barriers and the stumbling blocks that are created by trauma have to be your final story. You have power. And when you come to me, or you come to Ronnie, or you come to people that provide these services through the frame of reference that we use as our foundational models in this work, we teach you how to recondition your mind. We teach you how to take your power back instead of falling victim and remaining this victimized, shriveled up flower that can't function in life because of your traumatic experiences. I have trauma. I have a lengthy trauma history. There are people in the world whose trauma history makes mine look like, I had a perfect world and I levitated and walked on water. But there are people whose trauma's history isn't comparable to mine or yours or whomever's, right? At the end of the day, we still have the power. And here is one of the tips. So I'm gonna, as a licensed marriage and family therapist, as a sports mental health empowerment coach, I'm going to illuminate some things for you. I want to talk about your core values for a moment. I have an activity that I do with my clients, particularly around relationship discord and their lack of personal boundaries, where I say, what are your values? Ronnie, there are people who can't even tell me what their values are. There are people, what I'm learning is that there are countless numbers of individuals who don't even know themselves. Well, you can't put boundaries in place effectively if you don't know yourself. You have to know what's important to you. You have to know what you're comfortable with and what you're uncomfortable with. You have to know how your triggers and your stressors and your traumatic experiences in life are impacting, guess what? First and foremost, in your relationship with yourself. Because your relationship with yourself governs your relationship with other people. And your core values are going to be instrumental in helping you to navigate that part of your life, right? I tell people, take your core values. I give them a list, there's 57 of them. And I say, you know what? You can number all 57 of them according to their importance to you, or you can just number the top 20. But with one being the most important, I want you to put those core values in numeric order according to their importance to you. That's the first part of the activity. The second thing is I have them do what I call a relationship litmus. A relationship litmus is where I tell you, with your core values governing how you do the second part of this activity, I want you to determine what your needs are in a relationship, what your wants are in a relationship, and what your don't wants are in a relationship. And then I want you to assign a Likert system to them. Dr. Pitts, what the hell is a Likert system? A Likert scale is 1 through 10, with 1 being not very important and 10 being extremely important, or whatever you rate it in the middle. I tell people, try and make that litmus as exhaustive a list as you possibly can. You're going to put, what do you absolutely positively need in a relationship as it aligns with your core values, as it aligns with a better version of yourself, as it aligns with the life that you say that you love living. Put those core values in there, rate them 1 through 10, put your wants in there, rate them 1 through 10. Guess what, folks? That don't want column, boo-boo. That's your deal breaker column. That's your red flag column. I tell folks, if you put something over there that's rated at an 8, 9, or 10, run for the hills. That is not a relationship that you want to be in. If you rate an item a 6 or a 7, that's still a red flag. It's a critical red flag, but it might not be a deal breaker red flag. And you want to be able to pay close attention to that so that if it falls over into 8, 9, or 10, you need to be running for the hills, because that is not a relationship that you want to be in. If it's a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5, still a red flag, but you can pay attention to it so that it doesn't fall over. But you know what happens, Ronnie? Folks come into my office pissed off, unforgiving, all jacked up, relationships shot to hell, and they blaming the other person. And you know what I say? Except for those cases where I'm working with clients that have been in arranged marriages because it's the cultural norm. Didn't you pick him? Didn't you pick her? You mad? Oh, so let me guess. The bait and switch just happened since y'all, since y'all got married. The bait and switch just happened since y'all got engaged. Oh, so you didn't see all these red flags? Oh, that's right. You ignored them. You thought that you were going to be the first person in this person's life to be able to change him. You thought that they were going to miraculously, because you got all these superpowers at work, that you were going to be the person that was going to be able to make it all better. Stop lying to yourself. Stop it. You know what's fueling that? Fear of abandonment, fear of rejection, and insecurities all day long. You would rather be with a piece of man or a piece of woman than be by yourself. Well, guess what? Being by yourself is only bad if you're isolating in an unhealthy way. But here's my challenge to folks. Here's my tip. Take the time to spend time with you, to heal, to get deliverance where it's needed, to find out who the heck you are so that you can put some personal boundaries in place. You know what else I found out, Ronnie? People don't even know what personal boundaries are. Well, what's that? I mean, I don't want somebody talking to me all sideways and everything. Well, what type of boundary is that? I mean, I don't know. You have primary domains in your life, Ronnie. We have health and well-being. We have relationships. We have vocation. We have time, and we have money. Guess what? For personal boundaries, we have physical boundaries, emotional boundaries, sexual boundaries, intellectual boundaries, financial boundaries, and spiritual boundaries. Those are aligned. But if you don't know who you are, if you don't feel comfortable being able to articulate clearly what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with, what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And oh boy, here's the hard part. You have to actually be willing and able to implement the consequences that go along with breaking them. I've been telling people for the past 2 weeks, shake your tree. Dr. Pitts, what you mean by that? Everybody don't deserve access to you. Everybody don't. And look, and to your point, Ronnie, I ain't telling you what I heard. I'm telling you what I know. When I do my introduction for my clients, the very first session, I put a couple of disclaimers out there. I'm raw. If you need to be coddled, I'm not the therapist for you. I don't do no coddling. And I know there's a bunch of colleagues that I have around the world like, Dr. Pitts, you come too hard. Life is kicking people's ass. You hear me? Life is kicking people's ass. And you talking to me about I need to be more gentle and more kind and more coddling? Seriously? That's the BS that we selling today? I'm sorry. I disagree. And the reason why I disagree is because people are suffering. People are hurting to the core of their soul, and life is chewing them up and spitting them out and leaving them banging their head on a wall in the corner, or worse, they're killing themselves because life has handled them so horribly, they don't know what to do with themselves. I'm sorry. I'm not coddling. I am going to serve as a lifeline to people that actually want a lifeline. I don't come into the therapy room tripping on people the whole 9 yards. I ask them for permission to kick their back in. And that's the truth. I say, you know what? You're the master of your life. If you want my perspective, you let me know. I don't just go in guns blazing. I said, my guns are loaded. You let me know if you want me to shoot you. You let me know. And here's the other thing, another disclaimer I put out there. If you need me to stop shooting you, you need some time to go to the ER and recollect yourself because I just hosed you all in the face with emotion, tell me. But I'm not going to coddle because life has not coddled. I'm not going to mamby-pamby and sugarcoat it and make, let Dr. Pitts rock you. How's that working out for you? You need real life help. You need meat. You need sustenance that's going to help you to not be insane. People have got to be willing, Ronnie, to heal. I tell clients all the time, I'm not even lying. You may want to fire me. You might. That's okay. Everything is not for everybody, but you know what? The people that I help them with gusto. The people that can't handle my style, go to one of my colleagues. That's fine. God hasn't assigned me to help everybody. He's assigned me to help the people that I can help. I can cry with my clients. Because I got the PhD from the School of Hard Knocks in life, when appropriate, within the appropriate parameters, I disclose. You know why? Because people don't want to know about what you heard. They want to know about what you know. Yep, we got these education and all these letters behind our name and all these credentials, but guess what? Some of this stuff that we're dealing with in the therapeutic relationship is
this right here don't have no answer.
Thank you.
This right here don't always have the answer. This is a great resource.
Right, it is.
It's a great resource, but to your point, no, this don't always have the answer. And oftentimes, I ain't mean to cut you off, but
no, you're good. I wanted you to interject. I just didn't give you a chance.
I don't even know what point to start on because Lord have mercy. But to your point, and I'm kind of the same way. I always tell my clients, like, look, you might not like what I gotta say, but I'm gonna tell you the truth. You didn't come here for me to sugarcoat anything for you. I kind of have my own kind of same disclaimer. And the first thing I say is like, look, I'm not here to sugarcoat anything for you because life ain't gonna sugarcoat it. And I try to get my clients to understand this. And this is what I was saying about earlier, how we all function within inside systems, within inside of society. I can understand your individual issues. That's why you come to individual therapy. I can understand your individual issues. I would be doing you a disservice, in my humble opinion, if I did not try to pull you out of your individuality and get you to look at the broad perspective picture of how your individuality functions within inside of society.
Systemic.
Yes. And unfortunately, for a lot of our people of color who have been subjected to systemic racism, systemic inequality, systemic poor education, systemic poor criminal justice services and things like that, because these things have become so systemic and now they're multi-generational. I always find it funny how a lot of
generational transmission process, Bowen.
Yep. And I always find it funny how people of color are always the most impacted by these systemic issues.
How about it?
And now it seems like every time a new generation comes around, that new generation is automatically thrusted into these systemic issues. And now the new generation is followed with these systemic issues.
And it's getting worse every generation.
And I try to get people to understand, like, look, we all function within society. Our individual problems are our individual problems and challenges. And to your point, I always like to show my clients Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Because I think it is the best way for people to understand you as the individual, to understand you. And that's why I always tell people, we wear many hats. The most important hat that you wear is the hat that has your name on it.
How about
not
that?
You being a husband or wife, not you being a mother or father or a son and daughter or a niece, nephew, brother, sister, cousin, whatever the case may be. The most important hat that we wear as individuals is our individual hat. Because if we neglect that hat, if we always throw it to the back of the closet and let cobwebs build on it, let dust build on it, let people trample all over it, throw boxes on top of it, eventually, all those other hats we wear, they'll lose the threading.
That's right.
Because we keep pulling threading from those hats trying to patch our own hat, as opposed to taking care of our own hat so we can take care of the other hats that we wear.
That's right. To thine own self be true.
Yeah.
That's my interpretation of what you just said. And I tell clients that all the time. It's like, you so busy worrying about everything and everybody else. You so busy blaming. One of the things that I tell them, I'm gonna put this on camera so folks can see it. I need to look, I need to do this artistically, but one of the things that I do, Ronnie, is I show people the core negative interaction pattern, right? And what that CNIP does is it shows these negative interactions that people find themselves in that they can't break. And it really is like a puppy or a cat chasing its tail. And what I tell people is the spaces between the arrows represent those breaks where you can make the minor adjustment to the pattern. People, and we get it, right? As adult children, we look at, where our parents have messed up and how horrible they were and what they could have, should have, would have done differently and better and all of those things. And nobody's suggesting that there aren't legitimate gripes about how some people were parented, right? But at the end of the day, one of the things that I had to learn where my relationship with my own parents is concerned is that for as much as they could have done things differently or better, Ronnie, they did the best that they could for who they were and where they were at that particular point in time in their lives. You know why? Because our parents have stuff too. And a lot of their stuff, we may never know the depths of it because they're going to take it to the grave. Some of the stuff we do know. But when you look, particularly for those of us that are in, I don't know what generation I am. What am I? Y, Z, whatever.
You're a boomer.
I don't know. I'm a baby boomer.
You're a Y. You're a Y.
Okay,
yeah.
So I'm a Y. Yeah, I have to look that stuff up. But anyway,
whatever.
Yeah, whatever generation I am, the generation that represents my parents, therapy, that's cuss word. What? Who doing that? Ain't nobody crazy. We ain't going to see those. Like, there's not even an understanding of the benefits of therapy. It was just something that just didn't happen. They did the best that they could for who they were and where they were at that particular point in time in their lives. And what I found, Ronnie, is that helped me to let go of the anger and the bitterness and, truth be told, at times hatred that I had toward my parents because of where they lacked or where I felt that they dropped the ball. And instead, what I decided to do was purpose it in my heart, mind, spirit, and soul to be a more effective parent for Andre than how my parents were to me. And even at that, I still made mistakes. There were things that Andre had to forgive me for, you know what I'm saying? But being willing to recognize that somebody has to be courageous enough to break these vicious cycles. And I want to tie it into something that's relevant to today's show that, I haven't met with him, so I can't diagnose him or anything like that. But Andre sent me a clip from Shannon Sharp's Club Shay Shay. And I don't know who that guy was he was talking to on the show, but they were talking about Ben Simmons. And they were talking about how he is afraid to shoot and how he freezes up. And one of the things that they said that made me know that I needed to reference it on our show is that they said that they really believe that he could benefit from seeking therapy.
Meta World Peace, formerly known as Ron Artest. Yeah.
Okay.
And that's somebody who, if anybody can give that type of recommendation, I don't know if you've had a chance to watch the documentary on Netflix about the Malice in the Palace back in 2004, I believe.
No.
They did a documentary about it. And for those, especially for our younger listeners, if you haven't had a chance to check that out, go check it out, because that was definitely a moment in sports history. But at that point, Ron Artest, he was formerly known as Ron Artest back in 2004, he was seeing a sports therapist for his personal trauma and things like that. Yeah. And so before the dude had threw the beer on him when he was laying on the announcer's table, one of his coping strategies for when he got overwhelmed with sensory overload was to go lay down somewhere. Go lie down somewhere and center himself. And so when the dude threw the beer on him on the announcer's table, he was using one of his coping skills of going to lie down somewhere. So to your point, absolutely. Yes, I'm glad your son sent you that, because I watched that clip as well. I haven't had a chance to watch the interview, but I'm definitely gonna watch it, because I like when Meta World Peace speaks, because he speaks from that perspective of somebody who had a very severe traumatized upbringing, and he was still able to persevere. And here he is in his 40s and stuff like that, and he's still learning about himself.
Right.
Which makes me want to bring to your point about family and parents and stuff. And for me personally, this is kind of where I'm at in my own personal journey through life, is where, and I think I told you this last week, one of the struggles I have, because right now, like I said, I wear many hats. Right now, I'm a son, I just became a father and things like that. But when I put my son's hat on, when I am a child to my parents, to your point, I can understand and be at peace with the whole idea of my parents did the best they could with what they knew at that moment in time.
Yeah.
However, and one of the things that I'm still trying to work through is I can understand that from a child's lens. My parents did the best they could with what they knew how. However, as an adult, and like I mentioned earlier, the moment you stop learning or stop trying to become a better you die. I feel like that conflicts with that statement, because if I just rested on, well, my parents did the best with what they knew and what they knew at that point in time when they were raising me, and just leave it at that, then I'm excusing them for a lot of the negative behaviors that they carried over from their childhood, that they did not seek the initiative to process as adults and work through. I always tell people, there are a lot of 50, 60, 70-year-old children in this world.
That's right, because you stop growing emotionally at the age that the trauma was inflicted. And if you don't do anything to address it, you have to be able to do that. And that's why the boundaries are so important, right? And recognizing that, to your point, we're not excusing the mistakes that you're making. I'm going to hold you accountable. I'm going to hold you accountable respectfully. But that's also where I encourage people, instead of blaming, instead of harboring hatred, bitterness, unforgiveness, instead of attacking the person, address the behavior. And part of how you address the behavior is by breaking that core negative interaction pattern, by being the change that you wish to see. Because parents ain't listening. Like I can't, my mom, but 75 years old. I can't tell her, Mommy, and yes, I still call my mom Mommy, I need you to do this. Look, what I need you to do, like they do us, right? What I need you to do is this. That's not going to work. So I have to be the change that I wish to see in her. I have to meet her in a place of common humanity, with an open mind and an open heart, and respectfully. How you just, and I've cut you off, Ronnie. I'm sorry.
Oh, you're fine. No, you're good.
How I convey to her without telling her directly, revealing my secret now. I don't know if she watching, she on vacation in Chickasee. How I tell her without telling her directly is I require her to honor my boundaries. So my boundaries they're firm, and the consequence that I put in place for people that don't honor my boundaries, because our boundaries are about our overall well-being. Our boundaries are about the strength and health of our relationships, right? So if somebody doesn't honor my boundary, I have to reevaluate that relationship, and I have to decide whether or not that person deserves access to me. And dependent upon what the boundary is the person may be violating, it may require me to completely sever that relationship, or it may require me to recategorize that relationship so that I'm limiting the amount of access that the person has to me. So when you hold someone accountable for abuse, neglect, or maltreatment, part of how you do that is by making sure that you have clearly defined boundaries. Again, whether it's physical, emotional, sexual, intellectual, financial, or spiritual, making sure you have those firm boundaries in place, along with the consequences that go with them for breaking them. And don't waver. Don't budge. Don't excuse everything. Don't pass everything off as, oh, somebody was having a bad day. Because whenever, even with your parents, the moment that you ignore the behavior or act as if you're unfazed by it. The moment you decide to suppress your emotions and not address stuff immediately, or once you've had a moment to cool down and can do that appropriately, you're reinforcing the very behavior. What we say clinically, you're reinforcing the maladaptive behavior that you actually don't like. So you have to be willing to assert yourself. You have to be willing to advocate for yourself, and in a very healthy, positive, productive, mature, and responsible way. You have to be able to convey what your boundaries are, because your boundaries are your way of helping people to understand with great clarity what your needs are that need to be respected in that relationship, what you want, what you don't want, what you're comfortable with, and what you're not comfortable with. But the blame game, that's never going to cut it. Attacking people rather than addressing the behavior, it's never going to cut it. You have to be willing to approach it differently and be the change that you wish to see. And before I shut up again, that the whole Ben Simmons thing is, I mean, we know some of the backstory.
Yeah.
You know, I would love to meet with him and do an initial assessment on him and help him to make the connection between his thoughts, his feelings, and i.e. his behavior that's creating this block for him where shooting is concerned. And that's why, and you'll see in posts in coming days and weeks, where I'm really incorporating line items in the post, Ronnie, that not only help people to see the value of addressing their mental health needs, but also where they see the connection between mental health and the therapeutic process as it relates to athletic performance. You know, I'm not knocking our colleagues that are sports psychologists or anything like that, but to your point, the systemic piece, we as mental health practitioners that add that additional layer beyond the athletic component, we have the ability to address the root of these challenges, because at the end of the day, during the regular season, during the off season, these athletes, it's not just injury, right? It's not just it's all of these other variables that are contributing to their performance because it's impacting their thought life. And we as mental health practitioners need to be able to systemically show them how to connect those dots so that it's not adversely affecting their performance.
Absolutely. No, you made a lot of great points, and thank you for clarifying, the statement I was making as far as, understanding, having understanding, and also because that's my point, and that's one of the things I can understand, how you got to where you are, and it's not my job to have the answer for you, because then because now your dependency spreads over to me too.
You're the master of your life. All we're here to do is to serve as your emotional and your relationship GPS.
Yeah. And understand this, people. If there's one way I could sum all of this up, we're here for a good time, not a long time.
Ooh.
All right.
That's good. Look, you better patent that corner. What? That's you. You need to put that. That should be your tagline.
We're here for a good time, not a long time. All right. So, and one of the things as far as speaking on Ben Simmons, I always social media has given a voice to the voiceless, and that's not always a good thing. Right. And so I always tell people who've never played sports, not everybody can just, you hear coaches say, just turn it on and off, anything you got going on in your personal life, when you get to the basketball court or football field, you just leave that behind. That sounds good. That sounds good on paper.
Don't it?
It sounds great in movies and things like that. But people don't really understand, like, even for professional athletes, even for them, as high of a pedestal as we put professional athletes on, and don't get me wrong, we put them on a very high pedestal because as professional athletes, and especially in today's climate, professional athletes just can't be professional athletes. They also have to be the voice of the real voiceless.
Everything. Role models, everything.
They have to be social justice advocates.
Yeah.
They have to be politicians. They have to be marketing geniuses. So all these things, like, when you think of a professional athlete, you just think, oh, all they get to do is play football or basketball all day. No, you would, if that was just the case, people are going, well, why are we paying them so much if all they do is play a sport? But because we add all these other responsibilities on them, and people don't realize, like, these people are still 18, 19, 20, 21, 22. Yeah. Like, yeah. I could, like, me thinking back to when I was 22, 23, there is no way. Like, if the world would have worked out for me in my ideal world and I would have became a professional athlete at 22, 23 years old, the magnitude of the responsibility and the obligations you have as a professional athlete, you have to have, like, as much as they invest into their physical health, their mental health has to be, if not stronger than their physical body. Yeah. To be able to withstand.
What's that old school though, right, Ronnie? When you look back at slavery times or whatever, the philosophy was keep the body strong and the mind weak. But in actuality, the mind has to be strong because our thought life has the ability to adversely affect our physical well-being.
Absolutely.
And hence why substance use and abuse is such a problem in the athletic world.
I think we talk about that next week because
what you said.
So, Dr. Pitts, before we get into our topic, I wanted to share some HBCU news with everybody.
Yes. You gonna talk about the Bayou Classic and COVID?
What's up with that?
So the mayor of New Orleans is requiring, masks are a mandate, and in order to participate in the Bayou Classic, which is coming up starting I think on the 23rd, that whole celebration week and whatnot in New Orleans, in order to go into restaurants, clubs, in order to party like a rock star and have a good time and participate in all of the Bayou Classic festivities, you have to be vaccinated. You either have to be vaccinated, or you have to show the test results that you have had a negative test. Masks are mandatory. The only exemption are kids under 12 that haven't been vaccinated, but she ain't playing around. And she said, we're in dire straits here. This is what it's come to. Like, we have no choice. We can't just act like this is not still a problem. And, what do we know about New Orleans? New Orleans is predominantly us, right? We're one of the vulnerable populations that's been hit the hardest by COVID. So she's put her foot down. It's like, you don't want to honor the rules, don't come to New Orleans, because that's what it is.
Shout out to her for the mask mandate. We don't have enough time to talk about vaccines and stuff like that. So I'm gonna leave my opinion alone on that one. But I will say this though. Take care of your bodies, people. God gave you an immune system for a reason. I'm not sitting there saying that your immune system is the end all be all. I'm not ignorant to that fact. However, if you are walking around with extra weight on your body, pre-existing conditions and things like that, COVID is not the only thing that you should be concerned with.
That's right.
COVID is an easy scapegoat, and COVID is a scapegoat for people who have pre-existing conditions because like what do we always do in life? Anytime we have a lot of things going on, to your point earlier, if a woman is being with a man who has cheated on her, abused her, neglected her, done everything wrong, but she's still sticking around, and the scapegoat is, oh, well, I have a child with him, I want to stick it together. Don't use the child as a scapegoat for your crappy relationship. So I say all that to say, people, take care of your bodies. You only get one body, all right? You only get one vessel. That's your body, all right? So take care of it. I always say, better, you do better.
That's right.
All right. I read a report last week. 86% of today's kids, adolescents, 2/3 of their diet is ultra-processed foods. I don't even know what an ultra-processed food is.
Junk.
I ain't never heard of ultra-processed. I don't want nothing that's ultra-processed.
Right. It don't even sound right, does it?
Yeah.
Like, what is that? I don't want that.
But then, then people say, oh, well, this, injection is the end all cure all for, what we got going on today's climate. No, your body, humans have been around, give or take, well over 10,000 years.
Mm-hmm.
That's just not by accident.
Yeah.
We didn't have all these medical interventions 10,000 years ago. We didn't have half these medical interventions 50 years ago.
Right. How
But
about
for
it?
somehow, some way, Homo sapiens have survived.
Mm-hmm.
So take care of your body. All right.
Yep.
Know your body. Not only know your mind, know your body too.
Right.
So
Know you.
Yeah.
Know
But
the
so
holistic version of you, all things considered you.
absolutely. So one of the first set of news I want to share is, as everybody knows, back on July 1st, the NCAA approved the name, image, and likeness bill,
Mm-hmm.
which grants all. At first, we thought it was just going to be Division I student athletes because Division I schools predominantly make a large revenue of the athletic money for the NCAA.
Mm-hmm.
However, the NCAA came out and said all NCAA athletes, regardless of division, so Division 1, 2, and 3, are able to profit off their name, image, and likeness. And so, as we've seen since July 1st has happened, a lot of student athletes have capitalized. Mm-hmm. University of Alabama's quarterback, I can't think of his name, but he had a lot of headlines because he has accumulated over $800,000 worth of endorsements, and he has not stepped foot on a football field at Alabama yet outside of training camp.
Wow.
He's walking into campus as a millionaire.
Amen.
So for HBCUs, one of my questions was like, well, I wonder how companies will do with this, well, giving HBCU student athletes a fair shot. Mm-hmm. So far since July 1st has happened, I want to share some news with everybody about some of our HBCU student athletes who have capitalized on this. Mm-hmm. So Johnson C. Smith football player Kawan Dukes becomes the first HBCU athlete to sign with Bojangles.
Okay, chicken.
So shout out to him. Another football player, let me find his information real quick. So a football player at Virginia Union University, Marquez Taylor, became the first student athlete for Virginia Union to be sponsored by a local burger chain.
Okay.
And so when I saw this, I was like, damn, Virginia State owe me some money. Boy, because they don't put me on some of them game day flyers and them game day programs. I wonder if I can get some backdated money or whatever.
That's right.
But it's just,
it's get some royalties, Ronnie.
Yeah, what? Man, I definitely need some. I need something.
What's Rihanna say? You better have my money.
Maybe I can get to the games for free this time,
Wow.
Maybe I can get into the games for free. But I encourage all of and we're actually going to be having a special guest in the next couple of weeks, ladies and gentlemen, who he specifically deals with the NIL deal for student athletes and professional athletes who are going into the professional league. So we're going to be having a special guest in the next couple weeks for an interview and talking with him about, how monumental this is for student athletes, because now for once student athletes are able to take control of their name, image, and likeness and actually profit off of it. So shout out to all these individuals. Now, I also want to let everybody know of some unfortunate news. So this past Sunday, a Virginia Union freshman football player passed away after collapsing on the football field.
That's a young man you called me about. Yeah.
19-year-old freshman. And so not a lot has come out about it since he passed away. We're not sure what happened, how that happened. I live 30 minutes from Virginia Union's campus. And, I will say last Friday and Saturday, we had unseasonably cool weather. It was in the 70s. And then literally last Sunday, it went from 78 on Saturday to about 95 on Sunday. Wow. Big jump. Virginia has bipolar 1, if nobody knows.
Virginia's weather is in the deal.
Virginia's bipolar 1, most recent episode, manic.
Crazy.
If I had to diagnose our climate. But very unfortunate news. And I always tell people, like I say, take care of your bodies. Like I said, we don't know the specifics of how this young student athlete passed away on the football field. I do know they were doing conditioning drills. Not sure what type of conditioning drills they were doing, how long they had been out there. None of those specifics are known, probably outside of just the football team and the university. However, I want to send a special condolences to the Virginia Union University Panthers and their football team, because I can only imagine how traumatizing that is to see a brother that he was a freshman, so he hadn't been there yet, but he had been through camp at least through the first week.
Yeah.
And,
had formed relationships just the same.
Absolutely. And I mean, he just got there, and that's unfortunate. And to witness somebody, collapse on the football field and then to find out they pass away, several hours later, right. Football will be the last thing on my mind. And one of the things I was thinking about, because somebody had mentioned this to me, was like, well, Ronnie, if you were on that football team, would you trust the coaching staff?
Wow.
And to be honest with you, I had to think about that question for a while, because I don't know. Because I don't know the complete specifics of what happened. If I had to speculate, it could have been a heart issue that was not known about. It could have been any number
of things. Yeah.
It could have been a multitude of physical, conditions that we were just unaware of. And I want people to understand this, because yes, as student athletes, we are required to get physicals in the whole 9 yards. Mm-hmm. But for anybody who's played, sports at the collegiate level, know this. Now, I don't know how it is for Division I, but at the Division II level, our physical is no different than a high school physical. Mm. It's really no different. Mm-hmm. And a high school physical is literally just what you would consider any old physical that a doctor would do. Mm-hmm. Height, weight, your eyes, your ears, your nose, throat, check your heart, listen to your heart, listen to your lungs. For men, they do the oh God, I can't drawing a blank. No, not prostate. Oh no, not prostate. No.
I know.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh nah. I'm like, I need this to get a physical. What other sports can I play?
Stop it.
No, hernia. For men, they check for hernia. I don't know what they do for females and things like that. So that's basically the entire physical. We're not doing blood work. We're not doing stress tests. We're not doing MRIs and x-rays of your entire body like they require for professional athletes. So there's a lot to be left known to that. However, I also understand that, it's the summertime. It's extremely hot. And in Virginia, during the summertime, it gets extremely disrespectfully humid outside. Mm-hmm. So, have no idea what happened to this young man, but, our condolences go to his family, the football team, the university, because they still have to go out there and play. They still have to go out there and have an entire season. And I would know without a shadow of a doubt that they're probably going to dedicate this entire season to this gentleman, because he had a life. I'm pretty sure he had a life. He had a future. He had dreams. He had aspirations, and it was taken away from him. He was robbed of that. And so it's very unfortunate. So to all my student athletes out there listening, first and foremost, make sure you take care of your body, especially during the summertime. I had a coach who always told us the day before camp starts, do an inventory of your body. Any nicks, bruises, cuts, ailments, anything. Because after that first day of camp, your body will no longer be the same until after football season or after basketball season. Yeah. You will be hurt. You will be tired. You will be dinged up. You will not want to eat. You will not want to drink the amount of water you're supposed to drink after practice. All these things come up because you are tired. I'm telling you all, take care of your body. Yeah. Put yourself first. If anything, be like Simone. Put your body first. And coaches who are out there listening, know your players and be realistic. All right. I get it. It's hot during the summertime. You got to do what you got to do. But the entire football season is not 95 to 100 degrees the entire season. Okay. That's not how it works. So understand your players. I know you want to push your players. I know you want to make sure they're in peak physical condition, but that's also some onus on the players too during the summertime when it's off season to work on themselves. Yeah. So, so sad that this happened. It's unfortunate. So, my prayers to the family and the football team. We're going to be rooting for you this season. And yeah, so that was all the HBCU news that I had for this week.
Yeah. Yeah. What comes to mind is the importance for grief therapy for the team, for the family. I can't imagine being this young man's parents or siblings and other family members. You're super excited. He graduates, you send your baby off to college.
And then not even a week later.
And then not even a week later, he comes back to you. It's just heartbreaking, and it's heartbreaking. And that's something else that for us as a people, everybody wants to be, we are resilient as a people. But we can all benefit from support. We can all benefit from support in having that unbiased, neutral party that can help. Now, so here's the one thing. So I need to correct something I said. So there is actually one exception to when I coddle. I coddle my clients that are going through grief and loss. So I don't want people to think, they're going to think it anyway, but I don't want people to think that I'm mean and insensitive and all of that. I come hard, but I do have temperance. I absolutely positively have temperance. I'm not in session screaming and yelling at people and cussing them out and all of that type of stuff. I'm not doing all of that, but I definitely, where grief and loss is concerned and the whole grieving process, I coddle the heck out of my clients because been there, done that, know that pain, and really try to nurture them through their grieving process. I find too that a lot of times people don't want to allow themselves space to grieve, Ronnie. They want to put a textbook timeline on their grieving process and go to comparing themselves to other people and all this other stuff. And so, grieving is different for everybody. And I think that grieving is a great segue into talking about adjustment disorders, because clearly one of the things that will require people to have to make necessary adjustments is the death of a close family member or any other type of life change that can cause stress. So let's spend the rest of the time that we have educating our viewing and listening audience about adjustment and how to navigate it in a pro-social way, so that they have some tools.
So, so today's topic is talking about adjustment, and adjusting to being a first-time student athlete on college, and what that looks like and what that means. And so, everybody who plays sports, they all kind of have the same idea of, I want to go to, be in the NFL or NBA or MLB, whatever the case may be. But oftentimes they don't understand just how difficult that transition is to the next level, how much adjusting you have to do, how many things you have to reevaluate and rethink about. And one of the first challenges for student athletes is that transition from high school student athlete to college student athlete. So Ronnie, what are you talking about? So let me just kind of give you a synopsis of a high school football schedule. And I understand that high school football has changed since the last time I played. I've been out of high school for 10 years now, so I understand things might be a little bit different. But typically in high school, you start working out in June or July, towards the end of the school year, June and all of July. You have camp all August. You have your 10 regular game season. If you make it to the playoffs, cool, whatever. Then you have your state championships in December, and then boom, off season. Free to do whatever you want. You can work out with the team if you want to. If not, some coaches will hold it against you. Not always the case. However, that transition to college. So for our student athletes who are listening, I found one of my old schedules from my freshman year. I still have it. I just want to run down this schedule for just a one camp day. And this is just for one practice. This is just for having one practice in the day. Let me read off this schedule to you real quick. 6:30, wake up. 7 a.m., have to be checked in for breakfast by 7. Means once you wake up at 6:30, you in there at 7. At 8:10, we had team meeting. 8:15, special teams meeting. 8:35, position meeting. 9:30, practice. Practice from 9:30 in the morning to 11:30. Lunch was 12:15. At 3 o'clock, we had lift and recovery. 4 o'clock, special teams meeting. 4:40, position meeting. 6:15, dinner. 7:30, team meeting. 8:15, position meeting. 9:15. Now, my freshman and sophomore year, we ain't getting no snacks.
Ronnie.
We ain't getting no snacks like that at the end of the night. Boy, if you ain't had no snacks in your dorm room, you was hit. I'm trying to tell you.
Oh my God. There was a no snack zone freshman and sophomore year, Ronnie.
You were hit. You were hit.
Oh my gosh.
And typically, honestly, we were done. Now, our schedule said we were supposed to be done by 10:30. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we was in that meeting until about 11:30. And you had to be right back up at 6:30 the next morning and do it all over again. And that's just for one day, ladies and gentlemen. Now, typically in college, camp lasts about 2.5 weeks, depending on when you report and when your first game is, but typically about 2 weeks. Camp normally breaks the first day of class. So, and funny story. So going into my senior year, that summer before my senior year, I had met my wife, who was, somebody I was talking to at the time. And I'll never forget it. We actually started dating a week before my senior year camp started. And one of the first things I told her was, I was like, now look, I don't normally date during the football season because nobody ever understands my schedule. I say I'm busy. I mean that I'm really busy. Okay, cool. I understand. I get all that. Yeah, cool. So by day 3 of camp, literally, you can't talk on the phone? You can't talk to me? I'm busy, baby. I'm sorry. Busy doing what? In a meeting. People don't understand, as a student athlete, when you get to college, them first 2 weeks you on campus, it's just you and your teammates.
Wow.
That's it. There is nobody, there are no students on campus. There's no socials going on. There's no parties going on. It's just you and your teammates. And for us, it was the band and the woo-woos. The band was out there. And I ain't gonna lie to y'all. The band had you think our schedule was crazy. The band will be out there till 2 or 3 in the morning. The band got down.
Yeah.
What?
I remember that when I was working at FAM, and I felt bad. I felt bad for the band members.
I can only imagine how FAM youth band was. Like, no lie, like Virginia State would have the band would be out there till 2 or 3 in the morning. I mean, just getting it over and over and over and over, and then we right back up at 5. So people don't realize like how busy you really are once you get there. And there's so many things that you have to do to prepare. Like when we got our playbook, we would normally get our playbook between the first couple of days, and it would normally take us about 2 or 3 days to install our playbook. But you still had to find time to study your playbook. You still had to find time to get workouts in, get conditioning in, make sure you're getting all your proper meals and nutrients and stuff like that. Your day, literally from sun up to sundown for the first 2 weeks of being on campus as a freshman, is football. And so the downtime that you think you have, because there will be times we would have maybe 2 hours here or 3 hours there. You know what you're doing? Concussion protocol, because you have to have a baseline for concussion testing. Then we had to sit in for all these meetings about HIPAA compliance and, what happens if you get injured and, being a student athlete in college, the things you can and can't do, the things you can and can't say as a student athlete representing you, your family, and the university. All these new changes. And to be honest with you, it can be extremely overwhelming at times. Extremely overwhelming. That very same college coach that pulled up on you at your high school or pulled up at your parents' crib and was nice,
is now Hitler.
Loving. Son, we want you to come on our campus. We're gonna treat you like family. We love you. We want you to be a part of that team. It's gonna be that very same coach who is in your face going off because your ass ain't run through that line. And it's I never forget it. Our offensive line coach my freshman and sophomore year, when he had recruited me, one of the nicest dudes. I mean, as a person, one of the nicest people I ever met in my life. I mean, just a good-hearted family man, was about his family. You know, I mean, just a good dude. He stepped on that field. He used to always carry around this water bottle, and it was a Gatorade bottle, but he had it covered up. And it literally said Mike stuff on it.
Oh gosh.
I don't know what that stuff was. Boy, oh my goodness, man. I'm talking with a completely different person. And all these things can be overwhelming. On top of, if you're a freshman coming into college as a first-time student athlete, you're meeting all your teammates for the first time. You might have met some of your teammates on your recruiting trip, some of the older players, some of the sophomores, juniors, and seniors. You might have met some of them. You might have met some of the other coaches and things like that. And even
Ronnie Ransome.
Huh?
So just while he's getting.
Uh-oh, what's going on?
Disorders or stress-related conditions, and you froze up. So I just jumped in and made
sorry,
I connected. You're fine.
I
connected
see you still moving, but I could see. Okay, I don't know what happened with that. I apologize.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you're fine. It's technology. I don't know if it's storming in Virginia, but it's storming here in Texas, and
it's supposed to storm later today.
Just letting folks know that, you know, everything that you described is in essence the foundation of an adjustment disorder. It's stress-related conditions, and you know, one of the things that we want you to know is that you can experience more stress than would be normally expected in response to a stressful or unexpected event. And the stress can cause you significant problems in your relationships at work and at school, right? So that's why we wanted to really expound on this even more and make sure that you understand that there's, and we get it, everybody's, you know, rah, 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 and gung ho and ready to go. And, you know, I am man, hear me roar. I am woman, hear me roar. And everybody's hype and they got their scholarships and they're going off to school and they're going to be the best player and we're going to win the championship and we're going to do all these things. And then reality hits. And it's like, oh, wait a minute. There's more to this than what I expected. And then, you know, as you said, which I think is something powerful for people to understand, that change, that the coach is going from all of the coddling and the rocking and, you know, now baby, and we want you to come and we want you to play. But at the end of the day, they go from being this warm and loving person that's nurturing your mom and nurturing your aunties and big mama and them to make sure that you sign that letter of intent and you coming. And then you're literally like, yo, who that? No, yo.
You acting different. Okay.
Right. You all, you know. And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just gonna say that, you know, that's culture shock.
Yeah.
That is culture shock that breeds. It's a feeding frenzy for adjustment disorders to come into play. And when you really take a deep look at this, what we need you to know is that the bottom line is, for as rough and tough as you are and as athletically talented as you are and all of these extraordinary things, life happening to you all at one time and the added athletic pressure that you're getting ready to experience and will experience throughout the season. Oh, by the way, life continues to happen to you regardless of whether it's in season or off season or not. You need to know that you don't have to go through this by yourself. You listen to these professional athletes are talking more and more and more about the importance of having a therapist. And it's not like you don't have insurance, because you do. You know, one of the things that you know we've been saying all along is that every team, I don't care whether it's Division 1, 2, or 3, or, you know, whatever the professional arena is, there needs to be mental health professionals on staff to work. Here's the thing, Ronnie, and we don't talk about this much, but it's not just about the mental health of the players. These coaches is bat-ass crazy. Like some of the horror stories that I've heard about some of the things that these coaches say and do to players makes me know, as a family systems theory clinician, that these folks hella crazy. Everybody is coming into the arena with a plethora of multi-generational and intergenerational issues, some of which have not been resolved. And then what happens? You get into these athletic settings and people are being triggered and people are being stressed and the pressure, and folk are losing it. They are coming unglued at the seams, and it's not being addressed. And here's what it looks like: feeling sad and hopeless. I know that, crying is a cuss word when it comes to men, but men cry. Whether it's in public or behind the scenes, men cry. Anxiety, as we talked about last week, and that nervousness and that jitteriness and the feeling stressed out and not being able to focus on your work and not being able to focus. I remember when Jared was on and we were going over his book, one of the things that we talked about last season was how you have these players that come from these toxic, very volatile situations that the coach screaming and yelling and hollering in their face is not phasing them because they're used to it. But then you have these folks that are coming from perhaps still environments where there's trauma, but they're not accustomed to all that screaming, yelling, hooping, hollering, and carrying on. And oh, by the way, if they're already dealing with an anxiety disorder that's triggered by all of that screaming, yelling, and hooping and hollering, now you got yourself a situation. Now you have yourself a situation, and it ties into what you said about how important it is for coaches to know their players. Well, how can a coach who perhaps has his own unresolved stuff completely know his player and what the mental health needs of or his player if he hasn't even taken the time to address his own stuff? So again, it's this systemic issue that needs to be addressed. And what we're saying is having the mental health support that you need is absolutely positively imperative in order to be able to appropriately manage the challenges that you're experiencing in your ability to properly adjust to being a scholar athlete, or even it's like, what are we looking at right now? We're in the preseason for the NFL. These rookies are trying to make the roster. The final cuts are coming up within the next couple of weeks. And folk are like stressed out of their daggone mind. What do we call it during the games? Now that was a stupid rookie mistake. Did you literally watching my game last night? And I'm like, yo, you just lined up in the neutral zone. And I kid you not, he was like 2 feet past the ball. You can't see if that football was back there and you ain't supposed to, what are you doing?
And it's things like that, So one of the tips I wanted to share with people, so I will share a little bit of my adjustment to college football. So when I was in high school, I played guard and tackle. And now granted, I'm 6'1", which, that's above average height for the average male. In the football world, 6'1" as a lineman playing guard and tackle is extremely short. So, but that's at the Division I level. At Division II, I always tell people one of the biggest differences between Division I and Division II are the linemen. Typically, if you are anything over 6'3" and can play football, unless your grades are not there or you just have a personal history about you that has a lot of red flags, you're going to go D1. For those of you who are under 6'3" like me, you're probably going to go D2 or D3. So, I was recruited by Virginia State to play guard. Kid you not, went through the first day and a half of camp. We didn't necessarily touch the field. We had to do our conditioning test, the whole 9 yards and everything. So in my mind, I'm thinking like, oh, they said the left guard position is open this year. The dude just graduated, so they don't have nobody they're gonna name starter yet. I'm gonna be starting the left guard this season. The first time we walked on the field for practice number one.
Ronnie's frozen again.
Oh, can you hear me? Hello?
So there you go.
Okay, cool. I'm sorry.
You just froze up and then you went.
My bad. So I was saying, so my very first practice as a freshman at Virginia State, as soon as I walked on the football field, my O-line coach looked at me and said, "Hey, Ronnie, I want you to play center. Go over there with the centers." And I looked at him like,
they needed you last night because both them centers was snapping the ball all high and I swear, I thought about you last night. I was like, what the heck is going on? Both sides, both the Cardinals and the Cavs, ball being snapped all high. I'm like quarterback all up here. What is going on?
It's that wrist flip. Got to keep that wrist straight.
Oh my gosh.
So, and for me, so when we're talking about adjustment disorder, you're talking about a stressful change.
Yeah.
I had never played center. I played center maybe half a year in Little League. Hated it. And so I got thrusted into playing center. And it took me a good year to adjust. I got my butt kicked. And you talking about having your confidence wavered. And so that's one of my tips, you know, for a freshman, as an incoming freshman on any football, basketball team, whatever the case may be, as a student athlete, what I want you to always remember is why you were recruited. Remember why you were recruited. Understand this. There are over, I think, 1 million student athletes in high school for football. Well over 1 million. Only 2% of that number go to play college football. Right? So if you make
and only 2% go to the league from college to play pro. Yeah.
So if you play Division 1, 2, or 3, understand this: you are part of 2% who got to continue their career at the next level.
Yeah.
Remember why you were recruited. You were not recruited. Trust me, if you are not good, ain't no coach coming to see you, no matter what level it is. They're not coming to see you. All right. So remember why you were recruited. Now, when I got moved to center, confidence wavered, shaken. I had never played center before. And on the opposite side of the ball, we ran a 3-4 defense my freshman year. On the opposite side of the ball, we had a fourth-year senior who was just coming off a second-team all-conference performance the season before. He whooped my ass every day on the practice field. I wanted to fight this. If I could have caught this dude in the street slipping, I would have. That's how bad he was. That's how bad he was whooping my ass on the field every single day. But I stuck with it. I remember why I was recruited. And I worked my ass off. Understand this, people. When you get to college sports, you will really see what it means to understand that a college sport is a business. They are not there to play with you. All right. You are there to serve a purpose. Yes, and especially if you're on scholarship. I was on scholarship, and on my football team, we only had 11 people out of 80-some student athletes who were on scholarships. So even adding that pressure on myself to, well, they gave me a full ride. I don't even have to pay for school. So all these other kids who are, been here 2 and 3 years and are paying out of pocket for school, they're looking at me like, well, why the hell is he getting a scholarship? He ain't even that good. You have all this other pressure on you. Remember why you were recruited. Yeah. Like Dr. Pitts was talking about, we all have core values and core beliefs. As student athletes, we have core values and beliefs too. Working hard, determination, dedication, resiliency, persevering. One of my favorite terms by Coach Latrell Scott is, excuse me for cursing, but one of his favorite quotes was, survive the shitstorm. Survive it, because it's coming and it gets real. So as a freshman, understand it. It can get real really fast. Life comes at you fast as a freshman. But remember why you were recruited. All right. Work really, really hard. All right. Well, that sounds like, well, Ronnie, that's just cliche. No, that sounds cliche, but you will be surprised, even at the college level, how many student athletes just get to college and say, oh, well, I made the college football team. I'm good to go. I ain't necessarily here to start or play. I'm just on the team because I want all the benefits that it gets from being on the team. So understand this, even though you would think about working hard as a college athlete, that's going to be enough. No, work even harder. All right. Because things happen. But even if you don't start your freshman year, understand this, not all freshmen start. All right. Not all freshmen start. That's fine. But that gives you a chance to learn. Find a big brother on your team. When I was a freshman, my big brother was a junior. He looked out for me. He was the starting center. He took me under his wing, taught me everything he knew, and I took it and ran from there. Find that big brother on the team. You ain't got to know them, but you'll get to know them. Trust me, you will know your teammates during camp. You will know your teammates during camp. And if I could just give one last piece of advice for incoming freshmen, and this is probably the most important advice I could give you. Understand this. Please, please, please remember, student athlete, student athlete. Like I said, your freshman year, your first 2 weeks on campus, it's just you and your teammates. By week 3, other incoming freshmen are coming on, returning students are coming on campus, classes start. Take your butt to class.
Yeah.
Take your butt to class. You cannot be an athlete if you are not a student first.
That's real talk.
I don't care if you're a scholarship player, walk on, transfer, whatever the case may be. I don't care if you 5-star, half a star, no star. Take your butt to class. Yeah. I cannot emphasize that enough. I can't tell you how many freshmen, and this is all a part of adjustment, because they get overwhelmed, they get freaked out, they get discouraged, they lose their confidence, and they just sabotage. They say, well, hell, I know I'm gonna lose my scholarship, or coach ain't gonna play me because he don't like what he saw in camp. Well, I'm just not gonna go to class. I need to get some rest. Go to class.
Yeah.
All right.
You absolutely positively have to. And the reality of it is that not going to class doesn't alleviate the stress.
No. And that right there presents its own. And one last thing, student athletes, we definitely gonna talk about this later in the season. Understand this: if you're gonna go to class and be a student athlete in college, make sure the degree you're getting is actually gonna transfer to the real world. All right. Right. Don't take your ass to school and go be no gym teacher major, or do mass comm, or do one of these degrees where a million other people doing the same exact degree as you, and there's only 100 jobs available. Go. If you gonna here's the trick for y'all guys. Understand this: if you are fortunate and blessed enough to get a full ride where you don't have to pay a penny. A penny. Understand this: the average person who goes to college has $40,000 worth of student loan debt. $40,000 of debt is a lot of money. If your school is willing to give you a check to go there and play a sport, make sure you get your money's worth and get a degree you can actually use once you finish playing, because you will not be a football player forever. All right.
That's real. Yeah.
I'm done ranting, I promise.
You good. I just want to give them some quick pertinent information concerning adjustment disorder that I think that they need to know before we wrap up. So when do you need to see somebody like me or somebody like Ronnie to help you to manage this? If you get to a point where this stress is really adversely impacting your ability to function on a daily basis, you're having trouble getting through the day, you definitely need to get treatment to help you cope better with stressful events and to feel better about yourself and about life again. Because what have we been saying week after week? Not treating it is not the answer. Anything that goes untreated, it doesn't just go away, because life is going to continue to happen. So you need to be able to get with someone like Ronnie and I so that we can, help you to develop appropriate strategies to not just manage what's going on with you athletically, but to also manage the things that are going on in your life. I think that it's important to also know that if you, and we talk about this often too, and we'll get back to it later in the season, but if you're having suicidal thoughts, or you're really contemplating, you're giving serious thought to taking your own life because of the pressure and the stress, or if you're thinking about hurting somebody else, you need to call 911 immediately, or you can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-8255. Again, that's 1-800-273-8255 to reach a trained counselor. That's the National Suicide Prevention Line. One of the things that I need you all to be aware of as you're going to school, or even those that are already in, college sports, or even in the professional arena, there are some risk factors that make you more susceptible to developing an adjustment disorder: divorce or marital problems, relationship or interpersonal problems, changes in situation, having a baby, being away in school, adverse situations, so such as death or financial problems, academic challenges that are going on, not necessarily getting the playing time that you thought that you were going to get, life-threatening experiences, a tragic event such as a family member or a friend or something like that, being in a drive-by shooting or in a really bad debilitating car accident or something like that, ongoing stressors. Here's the other thing, Ronnie, that I think that is really important for people to know as we're wrapping up. There are certain life experiences that can make our scholar athletes and our professional athletes more prone to developing an adjustment disorder, experiencing significant stress in childhood, having other mental health challenges, or the mental health challenges of a parent, caregiver, or another loved one, having a number of difficult life circumstances happening at the same time. Well, we talk about that on and on and on and on and on, particularly for our scholar athletes of Black and brown hue that come from, low socioeconomic status, that come from really impoverished situations. They have all of these things that are complicating their lives and making them more susceptible to developing an adjustment disorder. So we want you to know that this is something that we want you to be aware of. These are not symptoms or situations or circumstances that you should ignore. And if you notice yourself starting to have these feelings and starting to struggle, don't make up the decision, oh, I got this, I got this, I got this. Don't tough it out, because it's only speaking to that systemic problem that Ronnie and I told you about, where it only gets exacerbated over time. You need to get help, and you need to get help sooner rather than later, so that someone like us can help you to better manage those situations and circumstances. Well, as always, folks, we feel like we hosed you in the face today. But that's what HT is all about, right? It's about having the hard conversations. It's about the pertinent information that you need to be able to help yourself, to be able to help those that you love and care about, and to make a difference in our communities all over the nation and really all around the world. As always, we thank you for joining us, and we look forward to kicking it with you next Saturday.
Yep.
We'll see you
Y'all have a
then.
great weekend.
Yes.
Great show. Y'all be safe. Enjoy yourselves. If you're in this hot weather, stay hydrated, stay cool.
Yeah.
And holler at y'all next week.
Peace. See ya.